2024 is going to go down in history as possibly the most limp-dicked year in movies. Wicked, Part 1, follows the musical adaptation of the novel of the same name. Beginning at the end, after the death of the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz, everyone celebrates that Elphaba is finally dead. Then some people call out Glinda, asking if she knew the witch. Just before her poll numbers start to tank, Glinda then regales the crowd with the story of how she met Elphaba at Broadway Hogwarts, aka Shit's University. Oh, sorry, Shiz University. We learn that Elphaba was born green because her mom was a cheating whore, and because of this she was treated badly, but her magical powers gained her entry into the Little Witch Academia. This is where she meets Glinda. Instead of being the beacon of hope and light for the people of Oz, she's basically Cordelia Chase without the growth arc. At school, Glinda and Elphaba butt heads until one night at a secret dance event, which, apparently is not about that in the novel, and without any real justification, Glinda decides to befriend Elphaba. Then, one day, they go to the Emerald City, meet the wizard. Elphaba unknowingly makes the flying monkeys, steals the Grimoire, a grimoire basically, and she becomes public enemy number 1. I already don't like this movie on principle because it's yet another celebration of the villain. I'm so sick of this trend because it almost A, never lines up with future events, and B, presents the villain as relatable, never to invoke the hope that the character does not cross the line. I've said it before, in Joker, you feel bad for Arthur and hope he doesn't hurt anyone, until he inevitably does. His fall as a man trying to bring kindness to a cruel world is snuffed out when he becomes a monster. Wicked is in the Cruella and Maleficent camp, where the villain is justified in their actions and the story does not align with the future events. None of this is helped by the constant woke elements, of course. It's stupid that Elphaba was changed to be played by a black actress instead of a white actress, and not for the reasons first-order thinkers on the internet will complain about. Casting Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba gives the woketards even more of an excuse to layer on the "you just don't like me because of my skin color" bullshit. And Wicked executes this as poorly as Bright did with Will Smith. Fairly early on, there's a scene dedicated to that self-aggrandizement, and it's as forced as an audit by the IRS. Now, thankfully, this scene is only like 20 minutes into the movie, so once you're past it, you're basically in the clear. Besides that, there are plenty of standard elements you would expect nowadays for those reasons. According to the Queen, there are plenty of race and gender-swapped characters with many men looking and acting like ballcocks from Netflixvania. So on a scale of Broadway to Pride Month, it ranks somewhere around Ginyu Force. And that brings me to the songs. I didn't care for most of them. The vocals are clear and well executed, of course. I appreciate not having to look up the lyrics to understand what anyone is saying, but for some reason none of it stuck with me. There are plenty of songs from plenty of musicals that I appreciate, but Wicked was not impressionable. The costumes, acting, and choreography are on point. This is a big-budget Broadway musical after all, so they pulled out all the stops. There's plenty to draw your attention, of course, and perhaps that's an element of why I'm unimpressed by the music. I really did try to pay attention to what people were singing, and while I understood what they sang in the moment, it only took a few days for me to forget literally everything. You could put a shotgun to my head and demand I quote even a single line from one of these songs in this movie, and unironically, I would just tell you to pull the trigger. And I really did think maybe I just have bad short-term memory. Then I recalled an obscure example just to test my knowledge. Anyone else watched Rock and Rule? It's a Canadian animated movie from the 80s. The first and only time I watched it was somewhere between 10 to 15 years ago. I remember more of the lyrics from Send Love Through, which is the climactic song of that movie, from all that long ago, but nothing from Wicked, and I saw it only a little bit ago. That speaks to another issue that I have. The way the music is broken up. Every one of us resists the urge to firebomb YouTube headquarters with the non-stop ads at the beginning, during, and even after each video. Wicked decides to do basically the same thing, but with story progression. Not that Rock and Rule didn't do this either, to be fair, but the singing, instruments, dancing, and choreography, all of it comes to a screeching halt in order to progress the story in bite-sized bits. This drives me up the wall because the tone shift is so jarring. Every song, even the climactic one, can be interrupted by upwards of a minute or more. And it doesn't help that this is the musical opposite of 300, where 300 used stylized slow motion to extend the runtime beyond your average doctor's visit. Wicked does the same with music, but it's constantly interrupted. It's like an inferior version of free Spotify. Imagine watching the Spartans battling the Immortals, and then in the middle of the fight, it jumps over to Queen Gorgo talking to the Spartan Spartan council. Well, is the story at least interesting, Albeleo? No, not really. My summary would have been longer if it were. Elphaba is born, gets bullied, goes to school, then to the dance, then to the Emerald City, and finally runs away. If you removed all of the music, similar to 300 slow-mo, this movie would be shorter than the average episode of Rick and Morty. It's not particularly clever, heartwarming, or even really funny. Actually, on that note, I love my girlfriend so much. At one point, the original two leads who played Elphaba and Glinda in the Wicked musical, Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, pop in as cameos near the end of the movie. When the Queen recognized them, she sat up like a meerkat with morning wood and blurted out, "Oh, it's Idina Menzel, and what's her nuts?" I cannot emphasize how hard I was crying with laughter at that. That comment folded me like an omelet. And that's kind of the sad part about Wicked. My girl's brain fog gave me more joy than the entirety of the movie. If you're a fan of the musical, you'll probably like this. If you're a fan of the original Wizard of Oz novel, or even the movie for that matter, and thanks to a bit of research, the Wicked novel, you most likely will not enjoy this movie. So, from an outside perspective, Wicked is unimpressive. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.